Just look at this moment. Did Declan Rice foul Hato? And was that a handball? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Mikel Arteta remains the only manager to defeat Liam Rosenior this season, and he has now done it 3 times. Meanwhile, Chelsea have now received red cards in back-to-back matches, highlighting growing disciplinary concerns. Arsenal secured a 2-1 victory, with all 3 goals coming from corner situations. The result further underlines Arsenal's efficiency from set plays, as they move joint top for the most goals scored from dead ball situations this season, a clear reflection of their structured routines and delivery quality. From a tactical standpoint, both Arteta and Rosenior set their teams up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. The mirrored systems created an interesting strategic battle, particularly in midfield and during defensive transitions. When Chelsea were in possession, their objective was clear: progress cleanly from the back while committing numbers forward without losing defensive balance. From a nominal 4-2-3-1, their structure quickly evolved once the first pass was made. Both fullbacks advanced high, but their roles were asymmetrical. On the left, Jarell Hato pushed wide and held the touchline, effectively operating as a winger. This was necessary because Chelsea did not naturally have a traditional left winger occupying that zone, and with Enzo Fernandez preferring to operate inside the half spaces, width had to come from Hato. On the right, Reece James behaved differently. Instead of overlapping wide, he moved into the right half space. This complemented Pedro Neto's tendency to hug the touchline and stretch the pitch horizontally. The contrast in fullback behavior reflected a deliberate structural balance: width on the left from Hato, width on the right from Neto, and interior occupation from James and Enzo. To stabilize the rest defense and guard against counterattacks, one of the pivots, either Moises Caicedo or Andre Santos, frequently dropped into the defensive line alongside Trevoh Chalobah and Mamadou Sarr. This created a back 3 in build-up and transformed Chelsea's shape into a 3-4-2-1, and at times even a 3-1-5-1, depending on midfield positioning. The implication of this structure was significant. In advanced phases, Chelsea could commit 6 players into attacking zones, theoretically outnumbering Arsenal's back line. On paper, this forward overload created the potential to pin Arsenal deep and generate sustained pressure. However, Mikel Arteta anticipated this. Rather than allowing Chelsea time to settle into their attacking structure, Arsenal pressed aggressively in a man-to-man scheme. This often left direct duels across the pitch, including moments where João Pedro found himself isolated one-on-one with William Saliba. While risky, this approach was calculated. By matching Chelsea player for player, Arsenal aimed to prevent rotational superiority and disrupt the rhythm of build-up before combinations could develop. In response, Liam Rosenior introduced an additional variable: goalkeeper involvement. Robert Sanchez became an active participant in possession, effectively acting as an extra outfield player. Since Arsenal pressed man-to-man, Sanchez's inclusion created a spare man in the first phase, turning the structure into an 11 versus 10 scenario during build-up. This was a strategic gamble. On several occasions, Sanchez found João Pedro with longer passes into advanced areas. Pedro competed well aerially, winning a number of duels against Arsenal's defenders and linking with Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, and Neto to sustain attacks. Yet the risk was evident. There were moments when Sanchez delayed his decision-making under pressure. In one instance, he was quickly closed down by Victor Gyökeres after hesitating on the ball. Although Sanchez managed to clear before Eberechi Eze could capitalize, the situation highlighted the fine margins of using a goalkeeper so aggressively in possession. In midfield, Chelsea frequently formed a diamond during deeper build-up, with Palmer, Caicedo, Santos, and Enzo creating central density. This overload in the middle aimed to outnumber Arsenal's double pivot. The structural consequence was clear. If Arsenal's wingers remained wide, Chelsea could dominate centrally and progress through the middle. If Arsenal's wide players tucked inside to match the diamond, spaces would open on the flanks for Hato or Neto to exploit. The entire tactical battle revolved around these trade-offs: central overload versus wide exposure, man-to-man intensity versus structural risk. Chelsea attempted to manipulate Arsenal through numerical superiority and positional rotations, while Arsenal relied on aggressive pressing and direct duels to prevent Chelsea's structure from fully taking control. When Arsenal were in possession, they mirrored certain structural ideas seen from Chelsea, particularly with their fullbacks advancing. However, the height and function of those movements differed significantly. Unlike Chelsea, Arsenal did not push both fullbacks extremely high. Piero Hincapié was the more aggressive of the two, frequently advancing into attacking zones and rotating with Leandro Trossard. Their relationship was fluid and role-dependent. If Trossard held the width, Hincapié would drift into the half space. If Trossard moved inside, Hincapié would maintain width on the flank. This constant exchange aimed to destabilize Chelsea's defensive references and create uncertainty in marking assignments. On the opposite side, Jurrien Timber adopted a more measured approach. Rather than overlapping aggressively, he often stepped into the midfield line while remaining slightly wider. His positioning played a crucial role in resisting Chelsea's press. Hato faced a constant dilemma: step out to press Bukayo Saka and allow Timber time on the ball, or engage Timber and leave space behind for a direct through ball into Saka's path. This 2-versus-1 dynamic forced hesitation in Chelsea's pressing triggers and helped Arsenal sustain progression on the right. To counter Arsenal's build-up, Chelsea pressed in a 4-4-2 defensive structure. Palmer and João Pedro formed the first line. One would press the ball carrier, while the other screened central passing lanes into the half space and stayed ready to jump toward the fullback if needed. This dual responsibility was designed to prevent clean vertical progression while keeping Arsenal pinned to predictable passing patterns. In midfield, Chelsea adopted a man-oriented approach. With Arsenal effectively forming a 4-man midfield, Hincapié stepping inside at times, alongside Trossard, Eze, and Saka, Chelsea responded by assigning direct responsibilities. João Pedro tracked Hincapié's movements when he inverted, while André Santos and Moises Caicedo followed inward runs aggressively. This reduced Arsenal's ability to combine centrally and often forced them to recycle possession rather than penetrate. Arsenal's adjustment was subtle but important. Instead of forcing vertical passes into congestion, they began dropping deeper to draw Chelsea's press forward. Saka, in particular, frequently dropped toward the ball, dragging Hato out of position. This movement opened interior channels for Eze to attack with diagonal runs beyond the defensive line. By attracting pressure first, Arsenal attempted to create second-phase spaces higher up the pitch. Despite Arsenal securing the victory, the match was tactically balanced. Both teams largely neutralized each other's shot creation. The expected goals reflected this equilibrium, with Arsenal registering 1.09 xG and Chelsea 1.07 xG. Structurally, it was a game defined less by sustained dominance and more by controlled risk, pressing duels, and marginal gains in spatial manipulation.